I've seen a couple of videos in the past few days concerning the Bungie layoffs that have missed important elements, and if you spare me a few minutes of your time, I'd like to present a bit more of a perspective on it. I'm going to assume you know the gist of what's been happening with Bungie, and if you haven't, I would encourage you to watch the last video. I'll link it. It takes about 10 minutes. Check it out. I'm going to do my best to not regurgitate points from that video. That's a waste of everybody's time. So, to preface this before I respond to a specific video that I saw the last couple of days, I do want to lead with this classic LJ line. It's one of my favorites. Let me know if you've heard it before. I see both sides. Maybe it's my history being in management in corporate America, whatever that means. But I can understand how if you have a product that you predict to make $100 and it only makes you $55, how immediately you're going to look around to try to trim the fat and make things better with the resources you have, or in this case, the resources you don't have, or the resources you couldn't re-up. That's a business move, and I get that. In a sense, that's wisdom. Now, to me, what's not wisdom is the way that you go about it, or in this case, the way Bungie went about it. It's tough to take a company's word that parades terms like trust and family around, but then goes about difficult decisions using deceit and misdirection. Firing people on their days off, some people finding out that they got fired or let go on social media, letting go of legendary employees that have actively enhanced your final product to make it stand out in the sea of competitors, people who are like walking billboards for you. That doesn't really seem like the best way to handle it. And the more layers that comes out about it, the more tone deaf it seems the internal cuts were. I'm not going to speculate on the things we don't know for the sake of focus. So like the vested stocks, if Sony was involved indirectly, all of that. Let's just eliminate that for the sake of the video and just focus on what we know. We know they laid off 8% of their force. We know the independently confirmed 8% came from multiple divisions within the company, including community managers and official soundtrack composers. We know that it was done in an unceremonious way and could have been handled with way more accountability and integrity. We know there was a meeting a couple of weeks before where higher-ups were saying they would be cutting back on business expenses and that they would all have to work together to make the proper push, but some of the target audience of that speech were terminated before the corrections could be made. We know Bungie recently allocated funds for a new HQ that's over 200,000 square feet, and we know it made employees feel like it was a waste of money for various reasons. Money that could have possibly helped cut into that 45% deficit. And lastly, we know that Bungie's put out a statement recently titled The Path Forward that shirks accountability and seems as tone deaf as the Pete Parsons tweets. This is where I'm going to reference the recent Aztecross video. Now, he's an incredible content creator and great personality. I love being in the streams. I enjoy following him. And I know that in the grand scheme of things, his platform's ridiculous and he dwarfs mine 32 times over. I get that. It's probably more than 32. I didn't do the math. I didn't break it down. It's weird though. He's not at 1 million yet. That's kind of weird. You would think he'd be at 1 million subs by now. But his last video, he made a couple of comments while wrapping up the coverage on all of it that it kind of hit me as dismissive. And I don't think it was intentional, but that's just how it came off. I'll explain. The Aztecross mentioned people wanting an apology or wanting news concerning what really happened internally. And although that would be nice, that's not really the thing that I've been seeing, at least from the people around me and the people that matter to me in the community. And speaking personally, I could care less about AI generated blog apologies. You know, actions are the things that pull people back in situations like this. And I mean, even Cross said that. So an apology or news about what really happened, that's not what I want. In a perfect world, I would just like acknowledgement and accountability. I would just love to see Bungie come out and acknowledge they handled the situation poorly, and then take accountability about them making bad decisions that led them to lay off and fire the superstars that helped elevate them above these other companies. I know a lot of people are calling for someone's resignation up top, and that would be nice too, but I'm trying to focus on the tangible things that should happen or could happen. And the reason all of this is plausible, to me at least, is because that's the voice the company has led with their mistakes in the past concerning the game. They take accountability, they acknowledge bad things that happen, and they move forward. Like, I saw somebody, I think it was Salvatore, in his email response to Tassie, he said, when we made mistakes, we didn't cower, you know, we didn't run, we reloaded. And that was always the approach. So it's odd that suddenly that perspective or that voice is gone, and the focus is right back on upcoming projects that they need to be successful to make their money back. And this is me just thinking out loud for a second, but maybe it's gone because the front-facing people that understood how to use that voice were terminated. I get that there's so many others that's there still carrying the torch for the company, but how much assurance is that if they aren't even the people that make the final decisions about the product that we love or we want to love? Several stories have come out about employees taking things we've complained about in the Destiny universe to higher ups, only for them to have their hands tied by it being shut down. And the last time I checked, those tone deaf people that didn't listen to all of that player feedback, they're still there. And according to the path forward, they're still not really acknowledging they did anything wrong. They're just using trigger words like Forsaken and Witch Queen while saying the game needs to be consistently better, which is something that we've been saying for years. And even that might not even be because of like player responses. You can just follow the dollar and see that. That's just, again, business 101. So even the thing that Cross sees hope in, I admittedly kind of view as a load of crap. but I can admit also that's a perspective thing, and I don't want to diminish anyone's hope in any instance. That's not my thing. And if you believe, then believe. All right, dig it. Back on point. There's the loud, obnoxious parts about the fan base that's screaming for unrealistic things. Fire, riots, give hippie your job back, stuff like that, right? There's the other side that's being insensitive and saying good riddance. Those people we really don't care about, honestly. But most of the fan base, the people that don't make money playing the game, people who made friends in the game that carried over to real life, the ones that can't go flawless or knock out a master raid in 45 minutes, we would just like to see the same level of accountability and acknowledgement we've had from this company for the last 8 or 9 years. And we like to see it not just reflected in the game product, but their business practices. More importantly, actually, not an apology, not a twid telling us to jump back in for a memento, not a 5-paragraph high-key response with trigger words to misdirect us from the lack of accountability for what happened. Actual accountability. I don't think that's too much to ask for if you value the people that support you. Do I think that's gonna happen? No. Man. Nah, I don't. Not really. And I got like 3.7 billion reasons to think it won't. But we'll see. But in this case, I don't think it hurts anything to be hopeful.